Hi everybody. This video is going to be about the Unit 5 test review for applications of linear functions. Essentially, this whole unit is about writing equations. At the top of your test, you'll be able to see this exact same table. On the STAR test, you'll only have these two forms. It's not going to give you this information over here, so it's important that you learn what those things mean before you take that STAR test. So in number 1, it says, what is the equation in slope-intercept form whose slope is 3 and y-intercept is 0, -5? So slope is 3, that's m. Y-intercept is b. So we say y equals mx plus b. But instead of writing m, we write 3, so 3x. And instead of writing b, we write -5. So it's y equals 3x minus 5. Okay? Alright. In example 2, it says, a car starts 20 miles from his house, so that's going to be a start. Anytime you see an equation that has a start, that's going to be B. And it says it travels at a speed of 65 miles per hour. Well, that is a rate. So anytime I have a start and a rate, I use y equals mx plus b. So it's y equals, m is 65, x plus 20. Now this equation said you need to use v and t. So distance is d, time traveled is t. So if I'm traveling 65 miles per hour, I'm going to do 65 times the amount of time I'm traveling. So that means x is really going to be t. Notice how I curled that so it doesn't look like a plus sign. And then your y is going to be d. So I always try to write it using x and y first, and then go back and change it to my letters that they asked you to use. Okay, number 3, it says Jacob makes $14.50 an hour and he gets paid commission. After working 14 hours, Jacob has made $253. $14.50 an hour, that's a rate. 14 hours, $253, that's going to be a point. Because the only way that I can get that $253 is to have to work that 14 hours. So now you use that equation, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and you plug in the stuff you know. So I've got 3 numbers. I've got 1450, I've got 14, and I've got 253. Remember, it's opposite day when we write the equation. So it's y minus 253 equals, and then 1450 times x minus 14. Okay? Because 14 is x and 253 is y. And this is m. Okay? Alright. If I'm writing an equation from a graph, I need to know mx plus b. So I'm going to start by finding m. To find m, you just draw your slope triangle. It's going to be 10 high right here. It looks like it's 1 high, but really you have to look at what numbers are on the y-axis there. This is 6 across. So my slope, remember, is rise over run, so it's 10 over 6. And when I divide on my calculator, 10 divided by 6, math, enter, I end up getting 10 divided by 6, and then math, enter, I get 5/3. Okay? So that's my slope. What's b? Well, b is my y-intercept. Where does it cross the y-axis? It crosses the y-axis at 0. Y equals mx plus b. Y equals, m is 5/3, so 5/3 x, plus 0. We don't usually write plus 0, so that's going to be our final answer, 5/3 x. It says, what does the slope mean in this situation? So I have 5 over 3. Well, the 5 is my y. So what's on the y side? Brussels sprouts. And what's on the x side? Cookies. So I say 5 Brussels sprouts for every 3 cookies. Because remember, with slope, we need to use the words per, each, and every. So it's 5 Brussels every 3 cookies. Okay. Number 5. Number 5 is asking you to find the equation of the line between 2 points. So we're going to use y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1 because I have 2 points. I don't know my slope yet, so how do I get my slope? Well, I stack my points on top of each other. -4, 9, -8, and 12. And then remember, you draw your table through them, and you find your change. So this changed by 3, and this changed by -4. So my slope is going to be 3 over -4. 3 over -4. Now, it's really -3/4 because remember I can have it in front of the 3, in front of the entire fraction, or I could have it on the bottom as long as I only have it in one place. Okay? So now I just pick a point. I'm just going to use 8 and 12. You could use either point, it doesn't matter which one you pick, but my y value is 12. So y minus 12 equals, my slope is -3/4, and then x minus 8, but 8 is negative, so we say plus 8, because we use the opposite sign when we write our equation. Opposite day. Okay? Alright. Number 6 asks us again to write the equation of the graph. So we're going to do the same thing. Y equals mx plus b. B is 50. So B is 50. And we have to figure out our slope. So we draw our slope triangle. It goes across 1, and it goes up 50. So my slope is 50 over 1, which just simplifies to regular 50. So this is y equals 50x, because my slope is 50, plus 50, because that was what I started at. What is the y-intercept? The y-intercept is 0, 50. What does the 0 mean? Well, it's in the x spot, and x means hours. What does the 50 mean? Cost. So this means from 0 hours, I had $50 in cost. That would never be what somebody says in the equation or in a problem or in real world. We wouldn't say 0 hours cost $50. We would normally say that if I pay for something before they start working on it, then I am paying a fee. So we say there is a $50 fee or $50 startup fee before they start working on the car. Alright, number 8. At a concert, floor seats cost $55 each, balcony seats cost $35 each. Write an equation to the number of tickets that can be purchased for $600. So you have 3 numbers, we're going to put them in our equation. First off, 55 is a rate, and 35 is a rate, because they both say each. 600 is a total. There is only one equation form that uses total, and that is ax plus by equals c. Standard form. So, a and b are rates, and c is your total. So it's 55x plus 35y equals 600. Be careful about these problems on the test. This problem, and no in particular, is multiple choice, and so when you do it, it's going to tell you which one is x and which one is y. So you need to make sure that if it says that balcony seats are x, then you need to make sure that x has the 55. Does that make sense? So that's a warning for your test. Be careful, pay attention to what number is next to what letter and what the letter represents. A 100-point test has x questions worth 3 points each and y questions worth 5 points each. So a 100-point test, that's going to be your total. 3 points each, that's going to be your rate. And it says x questions, so I would put x next to it. Y questions worth 5 points each, that's going to be another rate. And it says y, so I would put y next to it. And then it says write your equation. So ax plus by equals c. 3x plus 5y equals 100. 100 is my total, should be what it's equal to on the end. Okay. A Ramey family bought 6 sandwiches and 4 salads. 6 sandwiches, 4 salads, spent $32. 32 is going to be my total. It says that x is supposed to be the sandwiches, so 6, this is my rate, and it's going to get x. And y is supposed to be the salads, that's another rate, that's going to be y. So this is 6x plus 4y equals 32. Once again, pay careful attention on your test to which one is x and which one is y. Okay, 11, 12, and 13 were like what we did in class just recently. Parallel slope and perpendicular slope. Parallel slope is going to be the same. Perpendicular is going to be negative, and you also have to flip it. Okay? So positive, negative, flip. So parallel, same slope. So what's the slope on number 11? Slope is always the number next to the x, so it's 7. On number 12, the slope is next to the x, so it's 1/2. On number 13, the slope is next to the x, it's an imaginary 1. Okay, I put negative because it's a negative 1 in my problem. To find the perpendicular slope, you have to negative it and flip it. That's what we were telling them. Negative it and flip it. So it's positive 7, so I'm going to negative 7. And then I'm going to flip my 7. Now remember, this really means 7 over 1. So how do I flip 7 over 1? I call it 1 over 7. Second slope, we're going to negative it and flip it. So negative 1/2, and then flip it, so it would be positive 1/2, or sorry, positive 2 over 1. The 2 moves to the top. This is equal to negative 1 over 1. If I'm going to negative this one, it really turns into a positive. And then if I flip the top and the bottom, it really just turns into a whole number 1. 1 over 1 is the same as 1 over 1 when I flip it again. Okay? Next section. Determine whether each set of lines is parallel, perpendicular, or intersecting. Remember, parallel means same slope, perpendicular means positive, negative, flip, and intersecting means not the other two things. Look at number 14. We've got 1 and negative 1. Didn't we just do that? Well, let's look. Yep, 1 and negative 1 created perpendicular slopes, so we say these two lines are perpendicular. Remember, this slope is 1 over 1, this slope is negative 1 over 1. Can't really tell that it's flipped, but technically it can be. And then 1's positive and 1 is negative. Number 15, the slope is 3. This one's slope is negative 1/3. Are they flipped? Well, remember 3 means 3 over 1. And one slope is positive and one slope is negative, so we say these are positive, negative, flip, perpendicular. Last one, they're flipped, but they're both positive. So that can't be parallel, it has to be intersecting. On number 17 and 18, they're asking you to write an equation that's parallel to 3x and goes through the point 0, negative 4. Guys, if I have 0 in the x place, where is that on my graph? Well, that means I move left and right, nothing, and I'm going to move down 4. That's going to be my b, that's my y-intercept. Does that make sense? So 0, negative 4 is my b. That's the thing that I add or subtract on at the end. So I can cross off answer choice B because it has not the right y-intercept. It's supposed to be negative 4. Okay? If it's parallel, that means what? Parallel means we have to have the same slope. So right now it's 3, so my parallel slope has to be 3. So N has to be 3, B has to be negative 4. That's negative 3, that's a third. D is my answer. The homework questions you guys did were a lot harder because it didn't give you the 0 in the x spot. Number 18 says, what equation is perpendicular? So perpendicular means that I have to do the negative flip, and I want this point 0, 5. So which one has a negative flip and the 0.05? So this is B. B is 5. M, if I negative flip it, I'm going to put a 1 underneath it. Flip it over, negative is negative 1/3. So negative 1/3 x plus 5. The only answer I got here is B. Okay. 19, 20, 21, and 22. For some reason, still have a couple people struggling on these. They were meant to be super duper easy and super duper fast. So what I recommend you do is I recommend you plot this point. Y equals negative 1. X equals negative 3, so that's on the x-axis. Y equals negative 4. And x equals 3. So plot those points. This goes on the y-axis, this goes on the x-axis, and on the x-axis. And then you have to remember the two things. We've got hoy, and we've got vux. Hoy is across, vux is up and down. It's hoy if you have a y, and it's vux if you have an x. So on this equation it's y, so this one is hoy. So I have a horizontal line. And then hoy tells me my slope as well. Since there's an O, my slope is 0. 20 is vertical, is a vux, because it has x equals. So it's a vertical line. And then undefined slope. That's what U stands for. Mm-hmm. 21 supposed to be a hoy, so that's a horizontal line. And 0 slope. That's what the O means in hoy. Okay? Lastly, 22 is vertical because it's a vux. And so that means we have undefined slope. Okay? Alright, on the back side, writing a few more equations. Write an equation to match the table. So, on the table, the first thing you're going to look for is when when x equals 0. Good thing you couldn't see me write that. You're going to look for when x equals 0. If you have x equals 0 in your table, you're good to go. So in 23, I have an x equals 0. But in 25, is that x? No, that's y. So I can only use y equals mx plus b for this first equation, and that's only because positive 1 is my b. The other thing I need to find is my slope. So I'm going to go ahead and do my arrows to find my slope. Plus 2 plus 1, so m equals 2 over 1. So m is 2, b is 1. Write your equation, and you're done. 24 and 25 use the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1 equation. So that means I need to find my m. So going back in time from 1 to negative 4 is negative 5. And going up in time from negative 3 to 2 is positive 5. So m for this problem is negative 5 over positive 5, which is negative 1. And then I have to put it into my equation. Well, in order to do my equation, I need to pick a point. So I'm just going to pick any old point on there. I'm going to pick the last one. 6 and negative 8. Negative 8 is going to go in the y spot, and 6 is going to go in the x spot. Remember, when we write these equations for the parentheses, it's opposite day. So it's y plus 8 equals, the slope is negative 1, and then x minus 6. And you are done. You do not have to write anything else. Okay? Next up, 25. Let's find the slope. So from 6 to 1 is minus 5, and from negative 4 to 1 is plus 5. So m equals negative 5 over 5, which is negative 1 once again. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So pick a point. I'm just going to pick 1, 1, because then that's just easy, right? So it's y minus 1 equals negative 1 times x minus 1. And you are done. The negative 1 came from the slope, and the 1 and the 1 came from the point. Okay. Number 26 says, write an equation of a line that passes through the point negative 3, 5, and has a slope of 1/2. Sorry, that says negative 1/2. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we've got three numbers that we're going to put into our equation. Y goes with the negative 5, so we say plus 5 equals, write your slope, negative 1/2, x, and then it's negative 3, so we're going to say plus 3, and then you're done. Positive 3 because it's negative here, positive 5 because it's negative there, and 1/2, the same slope you had, negative 1/2. Alright, 27 says to write an equation in point-slope form. Guys, point-slope form is the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. If you forget that, it's on the front of your test. You can always go back and look up the equation. On purpose, I picked one that did not go through the y-axis in a pretty point, so that you would have to write it this way. But we do need to find two pretty points so that we can find the slope. So there's a pretty point there, there's another pretty point there, and we're going to draw our triangle. This is 3, and this is 4. So m equals 3 over 4. The other thing I need is a point. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this point right here to write my equation. So that point is 2, 5. So I say y minus 5 equals 3/4 x minus 2. And then you are done. Alright, last two. So these two have the exact same equation, and they're asking you to write one equation where your line goes through it perpendicular and through the point 0, 9. So on this one, if I'm going to be perpendicular, that means I need to have a negative flip, right? Plus minus flip, that's what that means. So if my slope currently is 4, then to flip it, I'm going to say it's negative 1 over 4. And then you write your equation. Excuse me. 0, 9, remember that's the one, if I have 0 here, then that's my b. So this would be y equals negative 1/4 x plus 9. Okay? 29 asks you to do the exact same thing, but this time we're going to do parallel. And parallel, remember, means the same. So we're going to use the same 4. So m equals 4. And it's y equals 4x. And I'm going to use this b because it says 0, 9. So plus 9. So this one kept the same slope and used the y-intercept. And this one had our negative foot slope and used the y-intercept. Alright. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you take care of your notebook as well. If everybody makes 100 on their notebook, then I will give you it as a test grade instead of a regular old 5 or 6 homework grade. So please take care of your notebook. The instructions for that are in Google Classroom. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.